All right. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us for Meet the Professionals. This is a video series where we interview a variety of professionals from different career paths to find out more about their backgrounds, how they got into this field, and offer advice if you're interested in becoming a member of that profession as well. So this evening, we're talking to Tony Scarpa, who is a music therapist. Tony has studied music since the age of 9 and performed at the 1964 World's Fair when he was only 12 years old. In 1985, he recorded an album which he performed live at the United Nations. He received his master's degree in music therapy in 1988 from New York University and has been working as a music therapist since. He currently works in a hospital using music therapy to help people with schizophrenia and other types of mental illness. Welcome, Tony. Thank you so much for joining us. To get started, can you just tell us a bit about yourself?
Yes, I started music at an early age. I was always involved with music and sound from when I remember, like 4 years old. I think my parents understood that I wanted to play music at that point, and they wouldn't get me the drum set because we had a small apartment. She didn't want a drum set in the house, so she got me a guitar. My mother was very supportive of my music playing. She definitely supported me, wanting to play music. Well, than I did, so that was good. So I started very, more serious about it. I had a teacher who was a guitar teacher from Juilliard School of Music, and by the time I was 11 or so, I was in a band. Getting a lot of performances. We were playing at pool parties.
So, Tony, you definitely had clearly an early interest in music, a passion for music. You had a long background of playing for fun with friends and bands. How did you make that transition or even realize that this could become a profession? And how did you become a music therapist? How did you realize that there was a field for music therapy? And how did that sort of spark your interest and get you on like the educational and the professional track for that?
Right. I thought I was going to like performance a lot more than I did, performing in bands and things. I really didn't. There was something missing. And when I think back, the thing I liked about music the most was, when I was a child, I lived with my grandfather. I still was a musician. So we were always playing music together in a very friendly kind of way. And then when I was a teenager, I realized that I really enjoyed teaching lessons, a lot. And, the act of like working with people with music and the whole performance thing, it didn't really do much for me. I felt like very isolated on the stage. Other people really get into the whole performance thing, but I couldn't connect with the audience. I needed to have them in a room with me, talking with me, playing with me together.
Yeah.
So there was something missing and I wasn't happy. And I was saying to myself, well, I'm reaching my dreams, but I'm not getting any happier. Couldn't figure out what was wrong. I didn't know what other avenues to take, but I just knew that there had to be something better. And I kept them, well, maybe if I get better on my instrument, raise up playing with better people, things would get better. I would like it more. But the more I got better on my music instrument, it wasn't making me happier. And the better people I was playing with, the better jobs and the better performances and all that, it still wasn't making me happier. And then one day I'm driving in my car and I turn on the radio and there was a music therapist talking. And I realized that's what I want to do. So I drove my car home right away. The guy was talking on the radio for about an hour. And so I went into my house, get into the car. Those days we had these radios, they called them boom boxes, kind of, where you put the cassette in and you recorded on it. So I put the tape in and I recorded the guy's whole conversation, listened to it over and over again. And I knew right there, I wanted to be a music therapist. That's what I wanted to do. I wanted to work with people with music. I just didn't want to stand on a stage like in a goldfish bowl, like people watching me. I didn't like that experience. I wanted to work with people, I wanted to give music to people in a way that, I could show them how to play and let them play, get the enjoyment of playing. not just teaching, but actually playing, So
Mhm.
I heard that conversation and I called up the colleges. I found out that NYU was teaching music therapy. So I had to take some prerequisite courses, a year of prerequisite courses, and I signed up for that program and went in. I've been happy ever since.
I know that you've had your master's degree in music therapy for a while now, but can you take us back a bit and tell us a little more about the courses that you took and what
Right.
type of sort of foundations of education high schoolers should expect to experience if they want to pursue a field like
Yes.
music therapy? It's a little more unorthodox. Do you have a sense of sort of what the current coursework would be like? Are there courses in social work, psychology,
Yes.
music courses? Is there one particular instrument that you need to be versed in, or can you
Yeah.
be a multi-instrumentalist? Can you do music therapy with guitar, drums?
Yeah. So if you talk about somebody just coming out of high school,
Yes,
if
yes.
somebody's going into undergraduate program, they're going to have to study. First of all, going to have to get pretty decent on their instruments. They're going to have to learn how to, not to be a great guitarist and a great pianist, but you're going to have to learn how to play a good amount of guitar and a good amount of piano. So that's what you'll be doing in your 4 years you're in the undergraduate program. You have 4 years to get pretty good. When I say pretty good, know how to play a good amount of songs on both of those instruments and do some singing. They're going to want you to do some. You don't have to have a great voice, but you need to like run sing-alongs and do singing like that. So the guitar and the piano would be, I would say, if I was going to become a music therapist, if I was a high school student, I would concentrate on those instruments. Maybe pick out one of those instruments as your major instrument, either
Mhm.
guitar or piano, but learn the other one too, even if it's, on a
Like
less,
rudimentary, very basic.
yeah,
Yeah.
on a more basic level. And also do some singing. You don't have a great voice, that doesn't really matter because you're not going to be recorded and trying to sell records. You're going to be leading people through song, and you're going to have to like help them through the song by singing yourself. Other than that, you are going to have to study like basic psychology. Um, you're going to have to study what they call abnormal psychology, which is learning all about the different psychological illnesses like schizophrenia, borderline personality disorders, bipolar disorders, depression, and suicidal tendencies, things like that. You're going to have to learn some of that. And so your coursework will be a lot of it will be working with the instruments. A lot of it will be learning some psychology, but then actually what they call music therapy interventions. So say you're running a music therapy group. So you're in a room with musical instruments and you have about 6 people. What do you actually do? They're going to tell you like different techniques of giving out the instruments, having people play along with you, having people play certain things, certain songs. How do you create like 2 people playing together, 3 people together? They're going to teach you all these types of interventions that you do with music. Now, the thing that's going to be added that I don't really know a lot about because I haven't been in school for a while, but definitely what they're adding now, which they didn't have back then, because we didn't have computers or cell phones when I was in school in the 80s. But now they're also going to be included technology. How to use technology in music therapy sessions, how to use the computer and all the different apps that pertain to music, even with the cell phone. So how to record music on the computer, how to play music on the computer for patients, things of that nature. So the computer is getting a little bit more involved.
Are there any certifications that are required to be a music therapist?
Yeah, you can come out with an undergraduate degree and work as a music therapist, but I wouldn't advise stopping there because the pay is not going to be that good and the number of jobs you're going to get are going to be somewhat limited. So what you really should do is go 2 more years and get that master's degree. That'll shoot up your salary tremendous. That'll double the salary, double the amount of jobs you can get, and the quality of the jobs you get, the comfort level of the jobs you're going to get. It really is important, I think, to get that master's degree. So it's 4 years undergraduate and 2 years for that graduate degree. Once you get the graduate degree, you get a certification, an MTBC, music therapy board certified. That stands for you. So you're a board certified music therapist.
Mhm.
And now you also get a license. So you get a New York State license, very similar to what a teacher's license is, but
Mhm.
it's for music therapy. It's called an LCAT, Licensed Creative Arts Therapist, LCAT. And that really increases your salary by a lot. So I would say the direction to go is definitely get the undergraduate, get the graduate degree, then you're going to get your certification, your MTBC, and then you have to work in the field and have somebody supervise you. But after you do that for, I forgot the number of hours it is, maybe it's like 180, I forgot the number of hours it is. But then you get your license.
Okay. So as a librarian, I know that librarians and teachers were always required to do continuing education
Yes,
hours
yes,
to keep a certificate.
yes,
Do music therapists also have to
yes,
do that? Okay.
yes. We have to take a certain amount of a license lasts for 3 years. I got to renew it every 3 years. And
Mhm.
during that 3 years, I have to take a certain amount of courses. Yeah.
And I assume these are courses that you can take online, webinars, things like
Yeah,
that.
now you can, since COVID, now it's all online, but before COVID, yeah, you used to have to basically go to conferences and go to workshops and go to these classes. But now, in the last like 2 or 3 years, everything is switched over to Zoom, so you can do it all from Zoom. Yeah.
So I'd love for the teens who are listening to get a sense of what your day-to-day work life is like. Can you tell us what a typical work day might be for you?
Okay. Since I've started, I've worked at a lot of different types of places. The first 25 years I was a music therapist, I mainly worked for myself, and I hired myself out. I used to go to about 12 sites a week. So I wound up doing a lot of work with children. So I'm going to describe two populations I work with. I work with a lot of different populations, but I'm going to describe the two I work with the most. I worked a lot for about 25 years. I worked with children with disabilities, preschoolers with disabilities, from age roughly about 2 to 5. And they had illnesses like autism, different levels of autistic spectrum. So they had developmental delays.
Mhm.
And I use music to help them, to increase their cognitive abilities, to help them relax, to help them get self-control, to help them with frustration tolerance, and to be more social, to interact with other children.
So when you were working for yourself and you were going to these different sites, like maybe special education schools, I assume, or
Right.
community centers, when you went there, would it be maybe an hour that you would spend with them in sort of like a circle, going through these techniques that you mentioned previously that students learn when they're becoming a music therapist?
Yeah, usually for that age group, usually a half hour was the maximum. It's a good amount of time, and I would see them once a week for a half hour. But yes, so I would sit in a circle with them, usually around say 6, 7, 8 children sitting in a circle,
Mhm.
and then I would start them off by singing songs with them. So I would sing songs that they would know. Now, these are young kids, so the songs they'd be singing would be like "Wheels on the Bus," simple
Mhm.
songs that they would. And because we did them every week, they would learn the words for them. So, and I would work with them usually for a year, and then for one semester from September to August, 1 year, and then a lot of I would work with them for another year. When they were 2, 3, and 4, and 5, work for them for those years. So they got to learn these songs, and there was a lot of songs, maybe about 50 or 60 songs they learned over those years, and we would all sing together. And so they would start off by singing together,
Mhm.
which is very good because a lot of these children had problems talking and speech delays and things like that. So singing was a good way to get them speaking and learning, because a lot of the songs teach you a lot of things. A lot of the songs
Absolutely.
were instructions about how to learn different things.
Mhm.
And then what I would do is after sitting, I would get them to stand up, and we do what we call movement exercises, where I'd get them to like move around, and we would march, and we do songs where you had to dance and march and do different standing up type of activities. go here, go there, doing different things like that. And we would do that. And then I would usually finish up the group by, I would have a bunch of instruments, and I would give the instruments out to children, and we would all play together. And they would always have one like special instrument, like a xylophone or a guitar or a bigger drum or a microphone to sing in. So all the children would be sitting in circles playing the smaller instruments, but each one would get a turn to come up and play the bigger instrument with the whole group. And
Oh,
then
that's nice.
we get a turn. So that was typical of a group of children. And I work with people that are older, and working with people that are older is good because they start to lose their memory. But the interesting thing is when people start losing their memory, they get Alzheimer's or dementia. It doesn't affect most of the time, it doesn't affect the musical memory and the musical intelligence. So they would still remember how to sing these old songs that they learned 30, 40, 50, 60 years ago. But by doing that, you're exercising their brain, opposed to them sitting down and not talking to anybody, but sitting there just kind of in not having the activity to do. By doing the activity of playing the instruments and singing, you kind of exercise their brain so they would become rejuvenated a little bit. And
so you work in a hospital now. You mentioned with patients with mental illness, with schizophrenia. Can you tell us a little bit if these are inpatients, how your approach differs, helping people who are in a hospital, like a clinical setting, as opposed to children who are in more of a school setting?
The last 14 years, I've worked in an outpatient program. So these patients are doing pretty well. In other words, when somebody gets sick with one of these illnesses, they usually go into a hospital where they stay for a few weeks. And it's a much more serious situation. They're kind of locked in there. But then when they're ready to leave, sometimes the doctors in the hospital will say, we don't need to keep them here anymore, locked up. They could be home, but they're still not ready to just come from here and go back into society, go back to work, go back to school, or just go back into the real world like that. So my program is called a partial hospitalization program. In other words, it's a hospitalization, but it's partial because the people come, they go home every night, but they come in the morning at 9 o'clock and stay to 4.
Okay.
And then they go home at night. And they do this every day for 5 days, Monday through Friday, and they do it for 6 weeks. So these people are doing very well. So I have a very beautiful, fancy music room that I built there in the hospital.
Great.
And too bad I don't have a picture of that. Would have been a good idea. But I have a real piano, the big real piano.
Yeah.
I have electric piano. I have a full drum set. I have about 7 guitars, including acoustic guitars, electric guitars, bass guitars, a ukulele, a violin, a cello, loads of drums, loads of conga drums, different kinds of percussion instruments, metal drums, all xylophones, a lot of instruments. So they are pretty much free to walk in the room, take whatever they want, take even more than one instrument, and we usually play along together. And it usually comes out very, very good. It sounds really, really good because the quality of the instruments are good. And these people are skilled enough to be able to play together and play some really good music. If I recorded it, you would think it was like music to a movie or something like that. It's really quality music. And a lot of them sing really well too. So we'll play for a while, get warmed up with the instruments. We have a PA system with a microphone. So then they'll sing. I have a big file cabinet with thousands of songs in it, which has the lyrics of the songs on it.
Oh, wow.
So when they pick out a song, they'll get a sheet with the words on it. So we'll sing a lot of songs. And then what's really interesting is every few weeks, like about once a month or so, we'll put on a performance where we'll create a stage in the lounge and we'll bring all the instruments out into that lounge and they'll actually put on a show. And we'll invite people from all around the hospital to come and watch them.
Oh, that's great. That sounds like so much fun.
Oh, and you've got to hear some of these, you wouldn't believe. And we've gotten some really good, there's a lot of really talented musicians that get mental illness. So we've had some really great music. We've had people who played with Paul Simon and,
wow.
we've had like really good musicians come in. So yeah, so some of the people are very talented. So they'll take the harder instruments to play. They'll play the guitar, the piano, the drum set, but everybody gets to play. There
Mhm.
are simpler instruments to play. It's like a tambourines or
Mhm.
maracas or xylophone. So everybody gets to be in the show. So we have a little orchestra there.
As a music therapist and working in a hospital setting, do you work closely at all with the psychiatrist there? Do you have sort of plans of action or any sort of note taking that you have where you're keeping track of their goals or their behaviors? What in particular you're working with on them?
Yeah, well, every morning, the start of the day, we all have a meeting from 9 to 10. The meeting includes the psychiatrist, which is 2 psychiatrists, the psychologist, which is 3 psychologists, a social worker, and a nurse, and myself, who's a music therapist, and an art therapist, who's very similar to the
Mhm.
art therapist and me kind of fall into the same kind of category. We're
Yeah.
both a form of art therapy, and we have a dance therapist.
Oh,
So
wow.
so there's 10 of us in this meeting, and we go through and we discuss all the patients. And I advise, the doctors and the psychiatrists advise me about what they're doing and what they would like to see me to do. And I also tell them what I'm doing and what I think we should do for the patients. I also give my input and my ideas on how to work with the patient.
In your experience, do you find the relationships that you have between the psychiatrist and the psychologist to be usually constructive? Do they usually want to work with you?
Yeah, right now, yes. That's not always the case. I've worked in places where the different disciplines, doctor,
Mhm.
psychologist, creative arts therapist, the arts therapist, it had like borders around them. I call it they had discipline absolutism, where they
Okay.
thought that their discipline was really the only one working, and the other ones were just fringe and just helping them out. So,
Yeah.
so you could run into bad situations like that. That's never constructive. It's terrible to be on that team, and it's not good for the patient. But I have to say, right now, the team I have right now, no, they ask me for advice and ask me to explain things all the time. Uh, they want to know what's going on. They really respect what I do.
Oh,
This
great.
psychologists really respect what I do and really want my input. See the patient, see every one of those different disciplines, see the patient differently and has different goals. So I'm seeing, because I hear them through music, it's different than hearing somebody through verbal, between like a
Yeah.
psychologist talks. So I can get information that the psychiatrist can't get and the psychologist can't get, or the
Mhm.
social worker can't get. And the same goes vice versa. The doctor can get information I obviously can't get, and so can the psychologist. So my information can only be gotten by me, by music therapists. And it's
Mhm.
very important. It tells a lot about the patient that they can't see, how they interact with other patients, uh, what more about their mood, what the music is telling me about their levels of anxiety.
Yeah.
And sometimes, because it's a nonverbal thing, you could ask somebody about the anxiety and you can get different kinds of answers. And sometimes the person really doesn't really know. It's hard to know for them. But when you play music, you get I get a clear picture of what they're feeling.
Mhm.
Because when you play an instrument, you're playing your feelings on the instrument. So I'm hearing those feelings not by them telling me what I'm feeling,
Mhm.
uh, which could be very effective, but it also could be like they don't know what they're feeling, or they don't feel like talking about what they're feeling. But when they're playing the instrument, I get a very direct, nonverbal impression or feeling of how they're feeling. I'm
Yeah.
feeling what they're feeling.
Yeah,
So
it's
I've
very,
learned that,
undiluted.
yeah,
It's a natural response
yes,
almost.
it's a
Yeah.
very direct, it's a very direct response. And so I've learned as a therapist how to interpret that, put it into words, and explain it to the doctor and psychologist and the other people on the team.
My second to last question is I'd love to know what your favorite part of your job and your least favorite part of your job.
The favorite part of my job is just playing the music with the patients. I
Mhm.
mean, it's such a beautiful experience. For someone like myself who loves music and loves playing music, remember when I said when I was playing with the musicians on the bandstand and everything, it wasn't
Yeah.
doing it for me. When I playing music with the patients and we play in those groups, I can't put it into words, but the feeling I get is sometimes I feel like I'm living in a dream, it's just so beautiful. And sometimes it just quiets my mind. So my thoughts, because I actually want to quiet my mind, because if I'm thinking about too many things, like what I'm going to do tomorrow, or what I'm going to eat for lunch tomorrow, I can't listen to the patients playing music because those thoughts have become a distraction. So when I can clear my mind, I can listen better and hear better. So I that kind of happens to clear my mind, and you get to see yourself better. And you often hear musicians say, I become one with felt like I became one with the music. Well, in our normal lives, we kind of have like a dual reality. We have ourselves and everything else, the things we're looking at, the people we're, I'm me, and right now, Jessica's Jessica, two different people. But what happens when you play music in that way, when everybody's playing together, that two-ness, that duality disappears, and you become one with the music, you become one with all those different people, and it's a wonderful experience to feel that. It's somewhat spiritual.
So if that's the best part, what would you say is the worst part of your job?
The worst part of the job is sometimes in a large hospital with a lot of different people, you're going to run into people that for some reason you and them don't understand each other, don't see eye to eye. You can say hurtful things, or you can make somebody's job harder. And that is the hard part. It's not the patients, it's communicating sometimes with the staff, because you're all trying to work together and you all have different ideas, and sometimes people disagree with you.
Yeah.
And you feel you're right, the other person feels they're right. And the best thing to do is if you kind of let it go, but then some people don't want to let it go and you feel they're wrong. So I think that's the hardest part, is communicating with staff sometimes. Now I'm not saying all those staff is like that.
Of course.
Many of the people are my best friends, and we have a great time. We go out together, do a lot of stuff. So, but every once in a while you'll run into a person who's hard to get along with. And it's not probably because they're hard to get along with. It's just that certain people don't get along well together.
So finally, last question is, what piece of advice would you give to high schoolers or college students who want to pursue music therapy?
Right. I would say, listen to a lot of music, not just pop music. Try to be, because in music therapy, you're not just going to have people your age that want to hear the type of music you like. You have to be able to understand and listen to, you might have people who like classical music. So you have to get an understanding of classical music. You might have people who like jazz. So you got to have that understanding of jazz. You're not going to get people not everybody likes the pop songs. Most people do like the pop song. So that's going to be good. But you need to get other knowledge of other types of instruments. Plus, I've had people come from Africa. So we had one guy from Chad, it was a country in Africa, and he wanted to perform and play. So what I did for like a few nights in a row, I would go home every night and I would go on YouTube and I would play music for Chad. And I learned to play all these songs from Chad and all the music from Chad. This way I could play with him. So see what I'm saying? So you can have, so I get people from South America, from Cuba, from Puerto Rico, from Russia, from Japan, China, Indonesia. So you need to spread out your musical taste a little bit.
Okay.
If you're not a music therapist or a musician, you can listen to just if you like Beyonce, if you like Jay-Z, you can listen just to those people. But as a music therapist, you can't just stick to that. You have to try to listen to music from India. I have a patient right now I'm working with who comes from India. Try to listen to music from India, all around different countries, plus jazz, plus, learn.
Have a very broad.
Yeah, learn to enjoy different music from all around the world. And I would say the other thing is play your instrument. Play your instrument as much as you can.
Keep practicing. Play.
You have to love your instrument. And if you love your instrument, you'll play it all the time. Just keep on playing it, and play it some more, and then play it again. Just play your instrument. Make it like, how you talk, you don't have to think about what you're talking, it just comes out of you. You want your instrument to be like that. But your music therapy, you just want to be able to talk on your instrument. Everybody moves to a different rhythm. Everybody speaks to it in a different tone. And when you want to be able to capture this person, what this person feels like in music. So you want to be able to just like play a lot of different types of music, a lot of different types of sound,
Mhm.
and just play with your feeling. Like whenever you're with a person, you might feel different things. One person might make you feel happy. Another people might make you feel sad. Another person might make you feel anxious. Another person might make you feel depressed. Certain people have certain feelings to them. Learn how to play those feelings, you know?
Well, I think that is a great note to end on. Thank you so much, Tony, for broadening our understanding of music therapy. Thank you everyone who is watching the video. If you have any questions for Tony, you can email us at teens@levittownpl.org and we'll get the questions to Tony and get your answers. So thank you again so much.
Thank you for having me. I really had a lot of fun talking to
Oh, thank you.
you.
All right. So we'll see you guys soon.